Welcome to Fluent and Chill. I'm Fluent. He's Chill. And we're here to help you with sports and with life. Jay, how you doing, man?
Running good this morning, brother. Let's do it.
Ooh, we got a full slate. We finally, we still don't have a name. So we're still looking for it. We're playing the name game. But we're going to call it for now Your Time. This is where you're going to set up the content. We're going to ask, or I'm going to ask a bunch of questions that you guys have sent in. So we got 4 good ones from the listeners, from the viewers. We're going to talk about a conspiracy every week. So we do 3 shows a week. Once a week, we will talk about a sport. Right now, it's sports conspiracies. You never know where it might go after that. But I've got a sports conspiracy that we're going to talk about. And you know, we both love conspiracy. So I think this will be a fun part of the show that we start to do. We're going to talk about the 4 hottest teams in the NBA. And the names might surprise you. But first, week 18. Only the second week 18 so far in the history of the NFL. People forget 1993 where there was 2 byes. There was also a week 18. So we'll put that out there. So let's talk about week 18. Some of the games we got right, some of the games we got wrong. Because, of course, we're setting ourselves up for Friday's episode where we're going to make all our wild card predictions. You never know. We might throw some of them in today as well. So let's kick it off. We only got, let me see, 1, 2, 3. We both whiffed on 4. The first one, listen, I don't know that they were heads were in it. I believe the Packers had already clinched the first round bye. They lose to Detroit. I think it says less about Green Bay because I think they kept their starters in because they didn't want them, sitting for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, basically, until they played and get rusty. So I get that. They didn't give it their all. Or does it say more? For me, it says a little bit more about Detroit. They're really fighting hard for Dan Campbell.
I looked at that team, Tone. I think 6 games they've had where it came in. It was a 1-possession game. 6 games they lost this season.
7 of their losses were within 8 points. So I don't know if you count that as a one possession. Yeah, because it's 2 point. Yeah,
1-possession games, and these guys are absolutely going after it for this coach. And I wasn't really that keen on him initially because his initial interview, he sounded like for lack of a better term, he looked like a nut. We're gonna bite you on the knee, and then we're gonna take out an ankle. And I'm thinking to myself, did we get this right, or do we need to re-interview because I think we might have screwed this up.
Don't forget his name tag on his office was the man,
which was the name tag on his office.
So, he wanted the lion. He wanted to come out with a lion on a chain. There was a lot of raw kind of college stuff that I didn't think would translate to the NFL.
But when you got down to the crux of it, he actually does know football. And not only does he not know football, not only does he know football, he actually knows how to get these guys motivated. These guys play really hard for him. Tony, I think that Jared Goff got a really bad rap. Jared Goff is a really good quarterback, and I don't think that he's better than Matt Stafford, but I don't think it's like this neither. I think that it's very close between him and Matt Stafford, and I think that with this, and Jared Goff isn't that old neither, Tone, which means that
he still has time to develop.
Right, and you can still put some pieces around him and possibly make Detroit into a playoff team. So I thought that they were going to be bad this year. To be honest with you, so I didn't think they win a game this year.
I think we all kind of dubbed the 0-17.
I did. I didn't think that they win a game this year, and the way that they fought and the way that they schemed, and as bad as I thought they were going to be, Detroit was a lot more surprising than I thought they were going to be. And I think that they'll be better next year. I think that 2 wins could be 5 or 6 next year.
Well, here's the thing. Now, we both probably agree Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. However,
I don't think so.
However, if he does, just hear me out. If he does, the Packers aren't a lock to win anything. The Bears are going to have a whole new GM coaching staff in there. Detroit's going to have a new coach. Why not Detroit? If all of those things play out, the last domino to fall is Aaron Rodgers. If he should, for some reason, go to, let's say, the Denver Broncos,
right,
as an example, in the AFC, away from the NFC, not that I'm trying to speak anything into existence.
Actually, you are, but anyway.
I absolutely am. But then the NFC is open. And so, listen, I thought all the same things about him. I said, they're crazy. And then worst of all, they hired their GM after their coach. So he's not even the GM's guy per se, right? Which I'd never liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're seeing that in, I believe, in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Brian Flores, yeah. Which whole nother conversation we'll have later, but he shouldn't have been fired. But anyways, so my point is, they have an opportunity now with the Jared Goff thing. I don't think he's a really good quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. I do also believe that him and Stafford are close, but that's because I'm not very high on Stafford. You're kind of bringing Goff up to Stafford.
I do.
I'm bringing Stafford down to Goff.
Well,
but
let me ask you this.
I think the difference isn't that big.
Let me ask you this, Tone. When you talk about Jared Goff, okay, there's below average, there's good, and there's elite. Where do you have Jared Goff?
So I have Jared Goff at good, but I think there's a level between good and elite. I think there's very good, just not elite. Like, for their careers, maybe. I'm trying to think of who would be very good. Like Phillip Rivers was very good. Ben Roethlisberger was very good. I don't have that. Eli Manning was no. I have Eli Manning at good, but he had two very good runs. Is what Eli Manning had, and so there's that level where they're better than good. Right? Like they could be your franchise quarterback. Heck, they could lead you to a Super Bowl, but they're not in the same. You're not having the conversation with Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. Like those guys are elite and they deserve to be kind of on another level. So I have an extra tier, I guess, in there.
Right.
So that's why I'm not too concerned with the Detroit Green Bay game. Although I am impressed that they fought so hard, and I'm with you. I think they can really turn it around next year. The other one we got wrong.
I don't want to get too far off of this because I want to basically stay on where we at.
Yeah.
Is he better than David Carr?
David Carr or Derek Carr?
Derek Carr, I'm sorry. Is he better than Derek Carr?
Is Jared Goff better than Derek Carr?
Is he better than Derek Carr?
You know, it's funny. Derek Carr is, for me, he goes back and forth between really good and good. So, I would say on average, they're about the. I would Derek Carr just by a hair.
So you give the edge to Derek Carr.
I give by hair, but
you think Burrow is better than him?
Oh, I think Burrow is better than him. Yeah.
Herbert's better than him.
Herbert is better than him. Yeah.
How about Hurts?
Ooh, I'm not high on Hurts, so I would put Hurts below him.
Okay, Heineke
below him.
So Heineke is below him. So we look at that's what I say.
He's not top five. He's not top five, but he's nicely placed into that like 6 to 15.
Okay, so we got him a little better than average.
He's better than average. He's better than average. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I might have too many tiers. It's just I don't want to put him into that really good.
No, he's not that good. No, he's not.
Yeah. I wouldn't be like, all my team needs is Jared Goff to win a Super Bowl.
Like he's the difference in us winning it. Yeah. Like if we get him in Cleveland, we could do it.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Because here's the thing. In Cleveland, they have a quarterback that's below average. Right. So you bring in above average quarterback. So that's what's interesting about Cleveland. I know we're going way off topic here, but if Cleveland brings in, they don't need to bring in Aaron Rodgers. If Cleveland brings in
Jimmy G,
I know he's not available. That was going to be the second name I said. If they bring in Derek Carr, Jimmy G, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, they're a legit Super Bowl contender.
Okay.
Because those guys are all above average. Baker Mayfield is not. So, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So like I said, I wouldn't say bring him to the Jags and all of a sudden the Jags are going to the playoffs. No. But if you go to a team like Cleveland that has everything else, Jared Goff, he showed it in LA. He could take you to the Super Bowl. So, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. He's in that nice middle pack. The next one that we got wrong, speaking, I even didn't mean to do this where I said if he goes to the Jags, why can't the Colts beat the Jags?
You know what this game was, Tone? This game was an absolute spoiler. That's exactly what it was. We saw the season is over. I think a lot of those guys in Jacksonville wanted the season to be over, and I think that they wanted to go out on a high note. And everybody already had Jacksonville losing this game, and they had Indianapolis. They had Indianapolis not only in the playoffs, but making some noise in the playoffs. And Jacksonville with losing Urban Meyer, right? With all of the nonsense that's been going on with them. They wanted to go out on a high note. And you've said it to me more than once, more than twice, any given Sunday. You cannot just show up against teams because this is pro football at the end of the day. And when I look at what Jacksonville did, they completely punched Indianapolis in the mouth right from the beginning. right from the beginning. And I think, to be honest with you, Tone, I hear a lot of talk. About how I'm drawing a blank with their quarterback.
Carson Wentz.
Not Wentz.
Oh, the other, Trevor Lawrence.
Lawrence, that's what I'm talking about. I'm hearing a lot of chatter about, well, did they make a mistake? Let's make sure that we clear, Tone. Troy Aikman was 1-15 as a starter his rookie season, right? Peyton Manning, 3-13 as a starter as a rook. So let's give this kid some time to develop and turn into a quarterback, because he does have flashes of where he looks like we can build this thing around him. Absolutely. But for Indianapolis to come out the way they did, and for Carson Wentz to just completely have that offense stalled, is unacceptable, and that is not a playoff team. And Jonathan Taylor's season was wasted.
That's what I was going to say too. Is Jonathan Taylor's great season is wasted on that team. And here's the thing: every analytics expert that I know sat back in their chair with a really big smile, because when they told you the Colts are 0-5 against the Jags, here's how they perform. They can't go in there and win. They're going to lose. Don't be surprised if this upset happens. Everyone's like, you're crazy. The Colts are a playoff team.
Right.
I guess numbers do matter sometimes.
Yes,
here's the thing, though. You brought up Trevor Lawrence, and people want to do this. And I happen to have this handy because you brought it up. So it's actually really good. So they say Trevor Lawrence, 2-14. This was, I'm assuming, prior to that game.
Mm-hmm.
TDs to interceptions, 10 TDs, 17 interceptions this season, 3,400 yards, 6.0 yards per attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Then next to Mr. Lawrence, they have these numbers: 5-11, 14-9 touchdowns to interceptions, 2,647 yards, 6.6 yards per attempt. That's Jamarcus Russell. So here's the thing. You can show that stat and say, oh my God, he's the next Jamarcus Russell. But to your point, you could then also show 1-15 Troy Aikman and say, or he could be the next Troy Aikman. So that's why I say, to your point, I agree with you. It's a little early to tell.
Yeah, man.
It's not all about yard. There's another, average quarterback who in his first season, I believe, broke the interception record. Peyton Manning, he turned out okay.
They got a statue of him outside the arena, just so you guys know. Just so we clear, he threw 29 picks as a rook. 29. They got a statue of him outside the arena. So
he turned out okay. So
he did.
Let's ease up. Everyone just wants people to come in like Herbert, right? Mm-hmm. Come in, boom, 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 and wow, he's great. Right. It's just not always the case.
No,
so that being said, so the next one was so that was the Jags. Again, I think a surprise, but yet not a surprise because of their history.
Mm-hmm.
This one hurts me. This one hurts me because they were supposed to win the division for me. And not only did they not lose the division, they lost to Pittsburgh and didn't make the playoffs. How does Pittsburgh beat? I get it. It's a backup quarterback. I get it. You don't have Lamar Jackson. Baltimore should still beat Pittsburgh, no?
And in fact, not only did you have them winning the division, you had them going far in the playoffs. I mean, they end up finishing last in the AFC North. Right? AFC North. Well, this is a testament of how important Lamar Jackson is to that offense and to how much that offense goes because of him. I looked at Tyler Huntley, who I think would be a very serviceable backup for a long time in the NFL. I don't think he's better than guys like Heineke. I don't think he's better than Jalen Hurts. So I don't think he's a starter in the NFL.
Sorry to cut you off, but someone's gonna give him a chance, aren't they?
Right. I think he's going to get brought into camp and somebody's going to give him an opportunity in terms of him battling for a starting spot. I don't think he's a starter, but I do think that he's a really serviceable backup on a good team. So take Geno Smith of Seattle when Russ gets hurt, and he puts into that lineup. I think that he keeps them rolling.
Yeah, they're probably in the playoffs because you're right. I think 3-4 games.
Yes.
Cool. I don't think he can carry the whole season.
I absolutely think that he's very serviceable as a backup. I think the difference in that offense, in addition to Lamar Jackson, the way that they were using Mark Andrews, he was very big in what they was doing. And to not have that threat in Lamar Jackson, that was big for them to lose that tone. So when I think about Pittsburgh, I mean, a lot of that was them being on a high. Now, let's make sure we're 100% clear, Tone. I look at Ben Roethlisberger, and I honestly feel like he looks like Mr. Potato Head. He just looks like a shell of himself. He just does. And I don't mean Mr. Potato Head like he
I saw what you mean. I think he had duct tape on his left shoulder.
That's what it looks like. It looks like his nose fell off. Okay, and you're putting that back on. His arm fell off. Okay, put his arm back on. This falls off. And this is like they were just piecing him back together and getting him upright just so he can just be there. Because his arm strength doesn't look nearly what it used to be. His ability to get the football out quick in 3-step and 5-step drops, none of that stuff looks like it used to be. And I understand that he's a lot older. And I don't think that Pittsburgh is going to make a lot of noise, but I look at that Baltimore team, man, and without Lamar Jackson, they're a completely different unit.
Yeah. The thing I want to bring up about Roethlisberger, rarely do players retire where we all kind of agree, right? The player and the fans and the coaches, everyone's like, okay, you're done.
Yeah.
But this is one where I think everybody knows it's over. You know what? I don't know why I had this flash. Remember the movie Any Given Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback, I forget who the quarterback's name was in the movie, but I think he was played by Dennis Quaid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, your time's done. It's time to put in Willie Beeman, right? It's time to put in Jamie Foxx. It's like, yeah, that dude's like, he's done. Cap was okay. He was just done. And I think that's where we are with Roethlisberger. And it's funny because I know you've said this and I've heard I think Roethlisberger would have just been happy if they didn't make the playoffs.
It might not be
ridiculous. Let me out, man.
Yeah, it might not be ridiculous because now we got to watch this dude
go against Kansas City.
And we got to watch a shell of who he used to be. And that's what we're going to remember him as, Tone. And I don't want to do that because I remember Roethlisberger as an elite quarterback. I don't remember him as a good quarterback. I remember him as an elite quarterback for a lot of years.
I did not like watching, I think it was Jerry Rice in Seattle. I didn't like watching Shaq in Cleveland. Like I don't, look, if you're still good,
right,
I'm okay. But when it's clear that it's just like, to see
Shaq put on a Boston Celtics jersey, I was thinking, stop it.
Oh, that one really hurt. That one hurt me.
Like, what we doing here, yo?
The last one that we got wrong, and I'm really Seattle.
Yeah.
Because they're really good, right? They're a playoff team if Wilson isn't hurt, right?
Yeah. You got to remember, too, that Arizona didn't have anything to play for. They was already in the playoffs, right? They were already in the playoffs. The difference was the Rams and the 49ers because if the Rams end up winning, they win the division. Arizona didn't have anything to play for. Not really sure what the story is with Arizona and Seattle because it seems like every time and that game wasn't a game that was a wash neither, Tone. I mean, even though Seattle handled them, Arizona was in that game. They were absolutely even though they were playing for nothing, they were still in that game. And I wasn't surprised that Seattle beat them, but I think that if the game meant more, like let's just say for the sake of argument that game was possibly for seeding. Or maybe for the division. I think Arizona would have handled them. I absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So I think so along the same lines as Green Bay and Detroit. There wasn't really anything to play for. Okay.
It wasn't nothing. It was nothing to play for. Nothing.
The last one, and this one we had right, but I'll bring it up. The Raiders and the Chargers. I know you thought, look, you were high on the Chargers, as a lot of people were. I think I've said this before. So I maybe get in trouble if I say it again. But anyway, I'll just say this. In my opinion, I'll put it. I'll make it more. I'll make it better so I don't get anybody in trouble. In my opinion, if the Chargers don't call a timeout, the Raiders are quite happy just letting the clock run out and having a tie and both teams coming in. Could that game have been scripted? I'm not saying it was. Could that game have been scripted any better? The way that it happened and it came back and it went into overtime and like if you were writing a Hollywood movie, could you have done a better job?
No, you couldn't.
Like how many fourth downs was Justin Herbert gonna? It's like they forgot all about first, second, and third. It's like let's just go 4th and 10. Oh, no problem.
And let's just keep doing that.
20. Yeah, no problem.
And let's just keep doing that. And they were just marching up the field, 3rd and 18, 4th and 11, and they're just marching up the field. I think next season, Tone, you're going to see a different Charger team in terms of their offense. I think what's going to be more involved in the offense. I think Mike Williams and I think Herbert are going to be more on the same page. Tone, I would not be surprised if they moved on from Keenan Allen. I would not be.
Really?
I would not be surprised if they moved on from Keenan Allen and they went younger. That would not surprise me. That would not surprise me. Even though Keenan Allen, I still think that he's very, very good. but I would not be
Oh,
surprised.
I think Keenan Allen's a top 10, if not top 10, 15.
I would not be surprised if they moved on from him and went younger. That would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I see flashes, right? And people will forget this is still Herbert's second year, right? It's his first year with the new head coach, new offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they don't make a change, like don't do something crazy. Like I've heard people saying, I think Staley should be fired because of that timeout. And I'm like, no. Now, I disagree with the timeout, but like if we fired coaches every time there was a play call that went wrong or that you didn't agree with, we'd have no coaches left. Because I've told you a million times, Harbaugh going for 2 twice probably cost Baltimore a playoff seed.
Right.
We don't fire him. You don't fire Harbaugh. Like this is just
no, you do not.
It's crazy. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Chargers are back with a vengeance. Now let's shift gears a little bit. Because we're going to talk about, so I'm going to bring it up again. On Friday, we're going to make all our wild card picks and we're going to talk about the coaches, right? Because there's a laundry list of coaches. So we're going to talk about which opportunities are the best for coaches. Some coaches that we agree should have been fired.
Yep.
Matt Nagy. Some coaches that we disagree shouldn't have been fired. Brian Flores. Not that I'm suggesting it. The Denver job. If you can get a quarterback in Denver, I like the Denver job, but we're going to talk about that on Friday. So let's shift gears a little bit to our other favorite sport, the NBA. I'm going to give you the 4 hottest teams in the NBA, and the names are going to surprise you. Here are the teams, and when I say hottest, here's the teams with the longest winning streaks. At 9 games, no, I'm going to start a reverse order. At 6 games, the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to talk about them in a minute. Also at 6 games, your Toronto Raptors. 7, Philadelphia 76ers.
Here they come.
And 9 straight, handedly took care of my Lakers, unfortunately, the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yep.
Now, I've been singing the praises of Ja Morant forever. Let's start with them. What do you see in this Grizzlies team that is just making, like, what? They're good. They're good.
Well, when Ja went out of the lineup for almost a month, nobody talked about how they were the number one. They were in the top 3 in the league in rebounding, and they were the best shot blocking team, which means that their defense improved mightily without Ja in the lineup. Now, you lose Dillon Brooks and you enter Bane, who I actually think that his ability to defend and his ability to score is better than Dillon. And with Dillon being out for now over a month, he plays that role better. I always felt like Dillon could be a better version of Tony Allen, only except he plays like he's Kobe Bryant. When in reality, I think he could be a better version of Tony Allen. So now enter Ja back in the lineup, and he sees what this unit is doing. So Ja now becomes more of a facilitator. Ja becomes now more of a playmaker because Jaren Jackson Jr. is becoming better in terms of just being a better rim protector. I'd like to see him play a little closer to the basket. I see him expanding his game, but I'd like to see him play a little closer to the basket because I think that's where he's the most efficient. When I look at the rest of this Memphis team overall, I think that they're going to be a problem out west. I think that they're going to be a huge problem out west. When I look at the landscape of their unit, I think they're number 4 right now in the Western Conference. And I don't think that they drop any lower than 5. And I think that they're going to be trouble. If the Lakers know anything, they do not want to be in that 5 spot and have to see Memphis in round 1 because I don't think that they beat Memphis. I don't.
No, that's a team, like there's certain teams that just it's a bad matchup.
It is.
Right? They've got really good interior defense. They've got perimeter defense. They've got scoring. And again, this is assuming everyone's healthy. And they've got a dynamic player in Ja who can literally double two-handed block you off the top of the backboard.
Basically taking the ball out of the sky. No, that's nuts.
That's a bad mix for a lot of teams, right? In the playoffs, when you have guys like Steven Adams, like Bane, like Brooks, who can D up, and then you've got a scorer like Ja, like that's a team you don't want to play because they can steal 4 games from you.
Yes,
they can. Mm-hmm. So that's a team that I think we should continue to watch for in the West. Now, are they better than Golden State, Phoenix?
No, I don't think so.
They're not there yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they, like right now they're in the 4 spot.
Mm-hmm.
But Would you be surprised if they took the third spot away from Utah?
I would be surprised if they ended up taking the third spot away from Utah because I think that Utah is a more complete team than them. But I'll tell you this, Tone, you want to talk about getting into the conference semifinals? I think they would give Golden State hell. I think that they would give we're looking at a 6-7 game series if those two guys got together. If those two teams got together, absolutely. I don't think that they can overtake Utah as long as Rudy's healthy and as long as this team is intact, because I think that Utah is more of a complete unit. But I do think that they would give Utah everything that they was looking for.
Because as of today, there's a lot of basketball left. The same wins as Utah. Mm-hmm. The only difference in the standing is Memphis has one more loss, but they're 6 wins ahead of Dallas. Yeah. So again, something would have to happen for them to try. They're there. They're in the conversation. Mm-hmm. The next team with 7 wins, the Philadelphia 76ers. What happened? They were supposed to be great. Ben doesn't come in. Mm-hmm. Simmons. Now they're supposed to be, now they're terrible. All of a sudden, now they're back up to what? The 5th seed. Mm-hmm. They've won 7 in a row. They're figuring out how to win without Ben Simmons. And of course, when Embiid is healthy, that's your MVP when he's healthy. I'm sorry. Last year too, I think if he's healthy 2 more games last season, he's probably, I love Jokic, but I think if he's healthy 2 more games last season, he's probably winning the MVP last year. Mm-hmm. So do you think, Are they more likely, now that they're winning, are they more likely to give up Simmons for a couple of smaller pieces versus the superstar they were trying to get?
Well, I don't know if they just hand Ben Simmons over, but I'm
not saying for a bag of Doritos. Yeah. I'm saying instead of trying to get Dame Lillard, mm-hmm. maybe they come down to like a CJ McCollum.
Well, I don't know, to somebody like
I'm saying equivalent player.
Like CJ McCollum. Well, I'll tell you this, Tone. When I look at this Philadelphia unit and I look at the Eastern Conference and how much better the East has gotten, what we discount how much better Philadelphia has gotten as a defensive team. Like Maxey is so much better defensively this year. I absolutely love the fact that Thibault has drawn the assignment. I love that about him, right? We already know that Joel Embiid is the guy for them offensively. I mean, they've won 7 straight games, Tony, and in the process of them winning 7 straight games, Joel Embiid is averaging 30 a game. He is the engine offensively that makes them go, and defensively that makes them go. Now, in terms of getting another piece in for Ben Simmons, I don't think it's ridiculous to think that to get another B-level player in, I'm thinking about a B-level player that could really help them. And I understand that I think Philly understands that this Ben Simmons marriage is over, and it is time to move on. Absolutely. But with that being said, we have to get the right fit in here because this Philly team, Tone, they're starting to click. And they're starting to click on all levels, particularly defensively. And if we're going to get somebody in here, we got to get somebody in here that clicks with us, not just offensively, defensively too. That could help us.
So is it? Do you think they're looking for guard, for forward, or just best fit? Like, I think make a run at like a Sabonis.
I think Sabonis would be great for them, but I think that another playmaker on the perimeter who can score the basketball, because I think you got your box work in Embiid, and Embiid does it in different areas. Not only does he do it on the box, he does it in the mid-range, right? Not only does he do it in the mid-range, he shoots the long ball. So we have our primary scorer, just like Brooklyn. That's why I think that when I think about Brooklyn, I think that Irv and James Harden, we got kind of stepping on each other because I think you already got your buckets in Kevin Durant. It's just a matter of putting all of that other stuff together, and that hasn't worked. But that's here nor there. When I'm thinking about Philadelphia, I think about just getting another playmaker in there, just a guy who can maybe give you another 17 to 19 a game on the perimeter. And
so he's not available. He's not available, but like what the Bucks did, picking up Drew Holiday. Mm-hmm. That would be if they could get their version of a Drew Holiday, which is rare. That would be like perfect, that. Right?
Absolutely. Because Maxey is actually turning into what Doc Rivers thinks that he could be.
Yeah.
He's absolutely turning into that. And Tobias Harris has been up and down during the season, which hasn't really helped them. I mean, the difference in them playing the way they're playing is absolutely Joel Embiid. He's done everything for them. But defensively, this team has gotten much better. And I think that's the difference in what they're doing. And if they could get another if they could get another playmaker on the perimeter, I think that they're going to be trouble. A lot of trouble. I think I had Philly 3 before the season started in the East, and I think they're 5 right now. So
they're going to be, I think 5 is where they're going to be though, right? Because another team that we're not going to talk about today, but only because they lost their last game, but they're 9-1 in their last 10, is the Chicago Bulls, who I don't think anybody, we had them in the playoffs. I don't think anybody had them top 4. So they're kind of bouncing everybody down. So they're knocking Brooklyn, Miami, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia down a peg. Cleveland, obviously at 6. And then the number 7 seed with 6 wins in a row. Speaking of guys averaging 30 a game over the last week or so, Fred VanVleet and the Toronto Raptors. I told you in the offseason, Masai's doing something. I said they're going to have a defensive team there because it's a bunch of 6'8", 7-foot wingspan wing players. There was like 10 of them, and they're going to get after it. My question was, will Pascal Siakam be able to step up and be that lead scorer? And if not him, who? Well, over the last week or so, it's been Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam really taking on the scoring load. If those guys could score, look, they're not going to score 30 a night. Let's be honest. But if those guys are scoring in the mid-20s, the Raptors have a chance of beating anybody. What have you? I know you get a lot of Raptor questions, so
I do.
We both flirted with them playoff team. Has your opinion changed? Like, do you think now they're for sure a playoff team or still bubble playoff team?
I do, Tone. I do think that they are right there at the cusp of being a player, not just being a playoff team, but actually making some noise. Before the season started, I had them, I think, on the outside of the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I think you had like 10, 11.
Yeah, I had them right in the, I think I had them on the outside of the play-in tournament. But when I look at what VanVleet has been doing, and over the last like 7 or 8 games, he's absolutely playing at an all-star level. I still am having a difficult time trying to figure out how Boucher is doing it, because he looks like a strong enough gust of wind. You can blow him right over, Tone.
But that's how he gets so high when he jumps. You don't see the whole team go.
Yeah.
Block.
He just looks like a strong enough gust of wind. You can just blow him right over.
Well,
but
can I tell you why, though? Because people don't know. And I'm not going to go into the huge backstory. But you're talking about a kid from Montreal, if you don't know Montreal, Quebec, Canada, like who was homeless at one point. And I'm sorry, anytime I hear stories about guys who grew up in, where it was rough, or, grew up homeless and had to fight and claw and scratch, I'm betting on those guys, because if they've been good enough to get into the league, and I don't care if it's the NFL, NBA, whatever, they're typically, as long as they don't lose sight of, what got them there, they're going to claw and fight and work. And that's what he does. He's just, you just see him on the court and you're like, that's not an NBA player. Right. And then you're like, but then you see him tip back, jam, alley-oop, block. And you're like, oh, maybe he is an NBA player.
He is. Absolutely.
He reminds me of a guy, and I'm going to go way back. And this is another Raptor player for the Raptor guys listening. Keon Clark.
I remember Keon Clark.
Very, very, very skinny and just, but man, just blocking shots all over the place. That's who he's a better shooting Keon Clark.
So when I look at this Raptor team and I look at what they've been doing, they don't have a legit rim protector. They don't have a lockdown perimeter defender, but they got a bunch of pieces. Because the one thing that I found out, not just in pro basketball and basketball, if we got a lot of guys who are really good, we might be able to trump some teams that got 1 or 2 guys that are great. And that's basically what Toronto has. Toronto got a lot of guys who are really good. And VanVleet, you definitely got it right with Scotty Barnes.
Yeah.
OG, definitely got it right. You definitely got it right with Scotty Barnes. OG, Boucher, VanVleet, Siakam. Ochoa is playing a lot better than what he did before the season.
The early part of the season, yeah, he was struggling. He was
absolutely struggling, and I think he was because it was a new system. And I don't think that he was completely happy about coming to Toronto, because he was in Miami, and I don't think that he was sold on Toronto yet. But he's definitely come out of what he's been doing. And now when I look at this Toronto team, I do think that they're a legit playoff team, Tone. I absolutely do.
I agree with you 100%. And it's interesting that you said that about Achua, because Nick Nurse runs about, 432 different defensive sets. He might be just.
I thought I saw 60 just a couple of nights ago.
And so when you're that focused, and you know this, anyone who's played knows when you're putting that much effort into defense, be it from the mental aspect and from the physical, it does take away from your offensive game. And I think you have to figure out, how do I do all those defensive things that I'm asked to do and still have something left in the tank on the offensive side? Because I saw him missing layups, missing dunks. Like, I mean, there was a game I think I saw him miss 3 dunks in a row. And I was just kind of like, ooh, but you could tell it was like his legs, just he wasn't getting that lift. And now and I'm not saying the conditioning was off. I know. And every great player you've probably seen in today's NBA where they take defensive plays off. They're not taking that because they're lazy or they don't want to play defense. They know, if I got to carry the load offensively, I need a break on defense, because defense is hard. Like, you get more tired. Like, trust me, I've never been too tired to shoot, but I've been tired to guard. It happens. So I'm a fan of what the Raptors are doing. I knew that. I think they're still a piece away. Right now, I don't think they're going to be able to do this because just the pieces that would probably, but like, because I know this player's probably on the block. A Miles Turner, right? A rim protecting big that can get up and down the floor and shoot would be perfect in that lineup. It may or may not happen, but that could be the piece that makes them look. Are they Chicago, Brooklyn, Miami good? Milwaukee good? No, but man, they'd put some fear into them if they had something like that. Yeah. And first a bonus, yeah.
Or call up New Orleans and see if we can get Valanciunas back up here.
Can I just say, the trade that I get it. Marc Gasol, they wanted a veteran big. I'm going to flash back here, guys, and I'm sorry, but the trade that they made to bring in Marc Gasol, I get why they brought in Marc Gasol. They wanted a big who could defend, who could shoot, and bring in veteran leadership to that team. However, they gave up DeLon Wright, who is a tall point guard who they really could have used. Granted, they still won the chip, don't get me wrong, but DeLon Wright and Valanciunas to get Marc Gasol, I would have been happier keeping those two guys. I still think they win because, one, when OG goes down, DeLon Wright could have been that defender who kind of covers that slack. And then Valanciunas has turned into a big who can defend and shoot threes and rebound. Like, I wish he was back on the team. He misses Toronto. Toronto misses him. But that being said, I
think that if you keep Gasol in Memphis and keep Valanciunas in Toronto, I still think they win it.
I still think they win it too. But I understand why they made the trade. They thought we need one more veteran guy who gets it. Right. I get it, but I think at that point Gasol wasn't who Gasol used to be. All right, the last one, the Dallas Mavericks, because I'm not sold on Dallas, but 6 in a row, they're moving up. They're the 5th seed right now. What's Dallas doing right?
Well, Luka has gotten himself in better shape. So I want to start there. Luka is healthy and he's gotten himself in better shape. Not only has he done that, Luka has done a better job in distributing. Him getting Tim Hardaway more involved in the offense. Him getting Finney more involved in the offense. If Porzingis can just hold up, I really think that this team, with Luka developing the way he's developing and Luka distributing the way he's distributing and getting other guys involved in the offense, right? I think that this team could make some noise in the Western Conference. Everybody was so critical of Jason Kidd. First of all, Jason Kidd just got the job, all right?
Yeah, they need time. They need time to just end. Right. Just for the record, Luka has played one less game than Porzingis. And we're all talking about Porzingis being available. Well, Luka's played one less game than him.
And Luka has done a better job of getting himself in shape. He absolutely has done that. And like I said, Finney Smith, I really dig what Finney Smith is doing as a combo guard, and Luka getting him involved more. Their bigs have been playing a lot better too. You definitely have to. Yeah. We can't discount that. Dallas's bigs have been playing a lot better in their ability to rebound, their ability to shoot the long ball, and their ability to get up and down the floor and defend. And I think that that's been the difference. Now, what I don't want to do, Tone, is I don't want to go overboard because I'm not sure that Dallas, because I think they're the 5th seed right now.
5th seed, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're the 5th seed right now. So they'd have to see Memphis in the first round. I think Memphis would give them everything that they're looking for. I'm not really sure if they could beat Memphis, but I like what Dallas is doing right now in their ability to defend and get up and down the floor and score the basketball. And I think that's the difference in what they've been doing.
Yeah, I've been critical of Luka, but I'm only critical of Luka because of this. If everyone, people are overrated, underrated, and I just want people to be properly rated. He is not the greatest player in the NBA. He's not the greatest player in the history of the NBA. He's really, 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 really good, and he's gonna be great. But I hate when people are like, "Oh, he's the best ever." Just
easy.
Slow down. Just let the guy develop. Let him, let him come into the league. I always say, give him 5 years, because I don't care what you do in 5 years. You haven't done enough, right? So give him 5 years, and you've always said this, and I agree with this. At that 5 year mark, that's who you are. That's who we're going to see. People have shot up like cannons and then tanked, right? Dwight Howard is a great example, who we thought was going to be the greatest center of all time, and now he's not. Other players have taken time to get to that point, and that's okay. It's okay to do it either way, but let's give him that 5 years and let's see what he does. For right now, yeah, he can fill up a stat sheet. He can lead your team. He's going to be a face of that franchise. Let's give him his time. So that's my only criticism, is maybe less on him and more on his fans. I'm just slow down with him. All right. Now we're gonna stick with basketball, but we're gonna go back. 1985, y'all. Patrick Ewing was the best prospect in years that the league has seen.
He was the next great big man.
The next great, and the Knicks, storied franchise, playing out of the Mecca. We want the Knicks to be good. We need the Knicks to be good. The conspiracy goes like this, and there's two versions of it. One, the NBA was fixing to get the Knicks, the next great big man, and keep the Knicks relevant because, heck, the NBA head offices are in New York. New York is the Mecca of basketball. You want the Knicks to be good. So apparently they froze the envelope so that when David Stern reached into that little big, lottery ball, he could feel the cold one and pull it out. Now, there's a second theory that as they were putting it in, and you can see this is actually on tape. It looks like the gentleman who's putting the envelopes in smacks it up against the side of the ball to bend the corner so he could also feel a bent corner. That's the theory, so that they go in. Now, that's the theory for how it happened. We'll talk about why it happened. Here's a theory about why they don't believe it. Why they don't believe it is, well, if they wanted to turn the envelope, why didn't they just bend the corner before and then just put it in, and no one would notice when you brought out a stack of envelopes that one had a bent corner. So that's the theory against it. Here's my thing before we get specifically into this one. Now, all of a sudden, the draft is behind closed doors, and we don't know anything.
Nothing.
They just, okay, here's number one, right? Like, I question, and maybe we're going to talk about this one, how the Cleveland Cavaliers had 3 first-round picks or 3 first overall picks in 4 years right after LeBron left them. We're going to talk about that another day. So let's go back. Do you think it's plausible, it's feasible, it's in the realm that David Stern would have set up a draft to make sure that the Knicks got Patrick Ewing?
I don't know if it's realistic that he set it up, but it did work out in their favor. I mean, Patrick Ewing ended up in New York as opposed to Indiana. I mean, that definitely works better for not just for the New York Knicks, but for the NBA. We're talking about a guy in Ewing who played in the Big East, and plenty of his games were in Madison Square Garden, in addition to the Big East tournament. So there was a fan base that was developed in the Northeast. The New York Knicks were not very good. Even though they had a really good player in Bernard King, they weren't very good. So to get Ewing, who was considered, Ralph Sampson comes out in 83, Olajuwon comes in 84, Ewing comes in 85, for them to get a guy who now we can build our unit around, because that's what the NBA was back then. It was a big man league. So to get a guy like Ewing to New York, it helps tremendously with the popularity in the NBA, because considering how big a deal the Lakers were, how big a deal the Celtics were. And now we can create a rivalry with the Celtics and the Knicks again. We can create a rivalry with the Lakers and the Knicks, and we can showcase a guy like Ewing. I don't think we can really showcase Ewing in Indiana. We can't really showcase Ewing in Cleveland. Now, if it's possible that we could get him in New York City, could we do that? Is it legit? Is it legit to think that? If nobody ever found out, sure.
So let's put this into perspective too, right? Because people are thinking the NBA, why would the NBA do that? Remember, we're talking about 1984, 85. There's no internet. There's no globalization of the game. In fact, no social media. Yeah. In fact, the NBA was struggling. We might have lost the NBA if it weren't for Bird and Magic, who surprisingly end up right. Thankfully in LA and Boston.
And in the finals.
And in the finals, right? So now it's starting to pick up steam. Let's be honest, because of Larry and Magic, the NBA starting to pick. What's next? Well, let's look at the teams below the Knicks that year. Indiana, not a big market team, not going to draw a lot of attention. Golden State Warriors. So we're not talking about the Golden State Warriors of today. This was a joke of a franchise back then. Who were the teams above New York? Because when you say, well, why New York? Why not another team? Well, next up from New York is the Kansas City Kings. Well, we know what happened with them. They moved to Sacramento. Yes, and the Los Angeles Clippers. Well, no offense, they're still the Clippers. Yes, they are. They're the second team in LA. And then you have to go up. Then you're going up to like there's Seattle and some other. But even then, what do you want? You want that marquee franchise. And in the 80s, that was still the Knicks. So is it crazy to think they wanted Patrick Ewing in the Knicks? And is it crazy to think they may have not flat out rigged it, but if someone said to me, yeah, they kind of said, hey, if all goes well.
Yeah. Well, if we can work this out and it happens to work out that he ends up in New York, that does wonders for the NBA. Because again, we talk about a team like the New Jersey Nets. As big a deal as the Nets are, they were not the Knicks. Absolutely no. So Indiana, they're not the Knicks, right? As big a deal as the Clippers are, and they're in Los Angeles. Even if Ewing ends up there, it's not the Knicks, and they're not the Lakers. No, they are not. So
and who does it hurt? So if he goes to the third worst team in the Knicks, who does it hurt? It hurts the Pacers, and it hurts and the Warriors. But who does it help? It helps the entire NBA because now you have a marquee player in a marquee city, and guess what? What they were working on back then was TV deals.
Yes, they were.
So now, and because of revenue sharing, well, it helps the whole league. Right. So is it safe to assume? All right, two teams. Sorry, guys, you're not going to get the best player here, but but you're going to get the money. You're still going to get money from this great player, and it helps everybody else who wouldn't have got him in. So yeah, this is one of those conspiracies that, and I guess this will be the last thing we do with every conspiracy. We're going to say yes or no. So let's stamp it. I'm going to say yes.
No. It's not ridiculous, but no, Tone.
All right. Well, that's it for conspiracy. We're gonna get another. Send us your conspiracy ideas too, because we're gonna do one once a week. So we do 3 shows a week. Every week we're gonna do one. I think he's lying. All right. So let's go to your time. These are your questions that we got via TikTok, YouTube, on Spotify. You can all of those places you can send us messages. So the first one. So I'm gonna bang out the first 3. Because it's basketball, football. I'm not saying bang up, but we can answer them pretty quickly because I want to get to the last one because the last one was actually a letter that was written, which just makes my heart warm a little bit. I'm going to paraphrase it, mind you, but all right. Kawhi Leonard or James Harden, who has a better chance when they retire? Who's going to have the better career when they retire?
Leonard, and I say Leonard because he was the difference. On all the teams that were winning that he was on, he was the difference on those teams. James Harden, he's going to be remembered. If it ended today, he's going to be the guy remembered for not being able to get it done in the playoffs. That's who he's going to be. He broke down in the playoffs or he underperformed in the playoffs. Meanwhile, Leonard, he was the difference. Despite what he was as a defender, even in addition to what he was as a defender, as he was as an offensive player, what he did in the playoffs made the difference in what these teams did. And that's what he's going to be remembered as.
A few weeks ago, someone asked me if Damian Lillard was going to be remembered like Charles Barkley because most likely he's not going to win a ring, for sure not in Portland. And I said, no, I said, interestingly enough, I said, no, that's probably James Harden.
Mhm.
And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, James Harden's an MVP, great scorer, does a bunch of stuff, superstar player. Not that Dame isn't, but who I don't think is going to ever get. I don't think he's ever going to win a ring. I really don't.
At least not
Even on this Brooklyn team, I don't think they're going to win. So I said, I think he's more likely to be like Barkley. And then what do we, today we get tricked by what we think today, but we know now because we see the way people talk about players from 20 and 30 and 40 years ago. 30 years ago, mind you, I want to remind people because I keep thinking 30 years ago was 1970. 30 years ago was 1992.
Yes, it was 1992.
Yeah, I don't like to think about that, but that being said, I'm thinking in 20 years from now or 20 years after he retires, they're going to look back and statistically they're going to go, wow, James Harden was a really good shooter. He put up a lot of points. He went to the free throw line a lot. Kawhi Leonard was a really good defensive player who ended up becoming a really good scorer. Oh, and he has a bunch of these kind of important things, these rings. So he's going to be the one that they'll elevate over Harden. And even if Harden wins one, which I don't think he will, but even if he does, it's still not going to be the same as Kawhi.
Right.
And so I think Kawhi is going to end up, we're going to look back and say Kawhi had the better career. And I think it's because statistically, there's not, again, it depends on what you value, but you're going to say, okay, Harden was a bit of a better scorer or was a better scorer. I shouldn't say a bit, was a better scorer and a better shooter. Kawhi was a better all-around player and he got it done. So I'm going with Kawhi.
That's going to be the difference right there.
In today's NBA, who would Glenn Rice be?
That's easy for me. Brandon Ingram.
Ingram.
That's who he reminds me of. Brandon Ingram is Glenn Rice. He's the silky smooth shooter who can score on anybody, anywhere. Glenn stood about 6'8". Brandon Ingram's about 6'10". Get to the basket on anybody. He was really good at the free throw line. He had a really good mid-range game, and he could shoot the long ball. And Brandon Ingram's got one of those games, very much like Glenn Rice, where once he got it going, forget it. You got no shot. Done. You got no shot once he got it going. And he was real. And Glenn wasn't really a rah-rah guy. But if you got Glenn going, if you started yapping at him.
I've seen him chirp. Yeah, I've seen Glenn Rice chirp.
If you get Glenn going and you start yapping at him, you're going to get it. Absolutely. So, and that's kind of who Brandon Ingram is, where he's not much of a chirper. He's not much of an emotional guy. But if you start yapping at him and you get him going, yeah, you'll get it. Absolutely. So if I had to pair the two, Brandon Ingram and Glenn Rice are in the same category with me.
That's a really, I didn't think of that one. That's a really good one. I instead went with he's the son or the baby or the mixture of. I said he's Chris Middleton's and Klay Thompson's baby. Right? He's better than Klay. He's better than Chris, but plays similar style. Right? He does a lot of things that Klay does, but maybe not as good. Great shooter. Don't get me wrong. Glenn Rice was a great shooter. Maybe not as good as Klay. And so I had him right in the middle. So I said he's like their baby. So that's where I put him. But Brandon Ingram's a good one too. I like that. All right, I'm going to name you four quarterbacks. The assumption is, and you have to rank them 1 through 4. If none of them ever won a Super Bowl,
taking Super Bowls off the table.
They've never won them.
Okay.
Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, and this must be a Dallas Cowboy fan who sent this one because the last one is Troy Aikman. So no Super Bowls.
No Super Bowls. Just ranking these guys as quarterbacks.
Who's the best?
When I think about a pure passer, just a guy who can deliver the football tone, 3-step drop, 5-step drop, there he is, hit him. Manning's the best that I've ever seen. I've never seen a better pure passer of the football. When I think about a guy who is just ice chill, that when the game gets chaotic, it's almost like that a calm comes over him. That's Joe Cool. And I've never seen anybody that's like that at all. Tom Brady is the guy who will just do whatever it takes to get it done. And it just doesn't matter what it is. I'll do it. Whatever we need to do, I'll do it. Absolutely. So, and if we're talking about just these 4 guys at the top of that list, no Super Bowls, at the top of that list, I think it's Joe Cool. I think it's Tom Brady. I think it's Peyton Manning. And then number 4, you told me.
Troy Aikman.
Troy Aikman.
So you have Tom Brady. You have Tom Brady 1 still.
I think Joe Cool's 1.
Oh, Joe's
Brady.
2.
Joe Cool's 1. Brady's 2. Manning's 3. Troy Aikman's 4. Troy Aikman was a product. I think Troy Aikman thrived in a system.
In the triplets.
Yeah. I think he thrived in a system that was tailor-made for him. I'm not one of these people that, well, if he had less, how much better? I don't care about that. This is what they gave him, and he was really good with what they gave him. Troy Aikman was a very good long ball thrower. Troy Aikman was really good in the pocket. He wasn't as athletic, but he was a very cerebral quarterback. But I don't think he was better than those other 3 guys.
All right, so you got Joe, Tom, Peyton.
Mm-hmm. Troy.
Mm-hmm. I got Peyton, Joe, Brady, and Aikman 4.
Right.
With no Super Bowls. But hey, listen, I don't think there's a wrong answer. But I think Aikman's just 4th on everyone's list.
Yeah.
I think if you put Brady, Manning, Montana, I don't think it matters which 3 you kind of put in there. But for me, I just look at Peyton Manning, and I think if I take away, right, because we're taking away winning. We're just saying if I'm just using my eye test,
just the eye test.
Peyton Manning to me is just like that's the quarterback I want leading my team. So that's why I'm going with him, even though I love Joe Montana. But I got just a hair just behind at number 2. All right, here's the last one. I'm not going to read the letter, but I'm going to paraphrase. And this is how we're going to end the show. So hopefully we don't bring tears to too many people's eyes. So Fluent and Chill. Actually, it says Dear Fluent and Chill, which I kind of like. That's nice. That's nice. My girlfriend wants me back. My ex-girlfriend wants me back, excuse me. I'm not sure if I can do it because she cheated on me with another guy who I played basketball against and beat. I like it. He had to put that in there. A couple of ballers. But he beat him. And so she cheated on him, and then they broke up, and now she's asking for him back. That's the paraphrase of the letter. It's a longer letter, but basically he's saying, here's this dude. I played ball against him. Not only did I play ball against him, I beat him. And my girl, I don't know what she was thinking, but she stepped out on me. She went with this. And now all of a sudden she realizes she made a mistake and she wants me back.
Well, I'll tell you what, my man, we all screw up from time to time. Absolutely, we do. And the question that needs to be answered is how, before this whole thing happened, how did you feel about her? Could you trust her? Because it's obvious that you don't trust her now. And
I may never again.
Right. And who she did this with factors in even more. If it was just a one-time thing, that's one thing. But for her to do this with your rival, and the fact that I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again for doing something like this, when that's gone, there's no reason for us to continue this, because I'm always going to be side-eyeing you. I'm always going to look at you like that, and we'll never be able to progress if that's how he sees her. Now, it's difficult for me because I know how flawed of a human I am, but I got a line. And if you step out on me with somebody that's a rival of mine, I can't get involved with you again. I can't do it.
So here's a couple of things. So when people quit something, it makes it really easy to do it again, right? They say the more that you quit something, the easier it is to do the next time. So not only did she cheat, which now means it'll be easier for her to do it the next time, but she quit on their relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's gonna be easy to quit again when times get hard, right? You already aren't going to trust that person entirely now. And when times get hard, you're going to kind of say, okay, well, let's just quit again. From the letter, it sounds like, this person is young. So if you're young and you say, okay, this is going to be my forever person. And now can I live 20, 30, 40 years knowing what had happened, knowing that it's fragile? That's something you need to deal. Like, do I want to deal with that always on my mind? Because if you do, if it's worth it, then hey, you give it a shot.
Absolutely.
If you think and say, well, no, it's not, that's not my forever person, well, then don't, because there's 7.5 billion people in the world. Half of those are women. because this is a gentleman who's sending this letter and he's dating a woman. I guess I should make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
So half of them are women. So there's 3.75 billion women to choose from. If that's not the one, it's going to hurt. But if that's not the one, you just move on.
Mm-hmm.
Just move on, because it's again, unless there's something super special that's like, hey, this is my forever person.
If it's worth it, work it out. If it's not, step off.
And I would say this, I'm making an assumption. But if you're asking us, should you? That means you already have doubt and so you know the answer.
You're just confirming it.
I say confirm it with you. I'd say look at one of the other 3 point, let's call it 4 billion. I think you'll be fine.
Yep.
So remember, that's it for this edition of Fluent and Chill. I hope that helps you. If you want, please feel free to send us another one and follow up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it for Fluent and Chill. Next, nothing. We're going to make that a thing. We're saying no thing is off limits. Basketball, football, sports, life, relationships. You let us know. We're here live Mondays at 8 on TikTok. Spotify has the podcast Wednesdays and Fridays exclusively. YouTube, you can find it at Sports Fluent. You can find it at Chilltown Hoops. And you can find the links to both Sports Fluent and Chilltown Hoops on sportsfluent.com. So come check us out. But until later this week on Friday,
take it light, but take it.